Are businesses using AI as an excuse to reduce headcount? Because it's quite awkward to reduce headcount because you've overhired, because that makes you look like an idiot. If you're a leader and you've hired several thousand just 2 years ago and then you've realized, oh, actually, we cannot support this headcount, and then you cut back, then you look like an idiot. Whereas if you say, oh, we're cutting back because of artificial intelligence, then you look like a genius. So it's a good scapegoat. Good morning, everybody. I am still in Stockholm, so I'm still on this slightly different rig. I hope that is okay. It's working all right though. I spent yesterday, the last 2 days, walking all over Stockholm, and for anyone who's from Sweden or from Stockholm, it's a lovely city and I very much enjoy it. I'm going to go and meet Lovable tomorrow. That's why I'm here in town, is to see Lovable, the AI company. So excited about that as well. Cool. Now, I'm gonna crack into the news and then answer questions in between. The big news story right now is the death of this 16-year-old boy, Adam Rain, it's his surname, and his parents are suing OpenAI and suing ChatGPT basically for the death of their son, who took his own life very sadly a couple of months ago. So I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail on that story. Actually, I've touched on it now. I think it's worth talking about because it is everything in the news right now. It has become a flashpoint between people who are very anti-AI and people who are very pro-AI. And people on both sides are forgetting that a young man has lost his life, and they're forgetting also that his parents are very reasonably upset about this. So on the pro-AI side, the arguments are about, it looks like he went around the guidelines, which it does look like he's done. Apparently he was role-playing, or he told ChatGPT that it was for a story. He wanted to create a character who had thoughts of ending his own life. So it looks like he has gone around the guardrails that are in place. It also looks like ChatGPT did give him multiple kind of crisis line numbers and said, you need to talk to somebody. I don't think the parents are going to win their case because their son was determined enough and went around the guidelines, the terms of service of using ChatGPT. And as people know, if you jailbreak or if you're persistent enough and you really want to get ChatGPT or an AI to do something, you generally can. You can pretend, you can use things like that. Oh, my grandmother used to tell me a story about back in the day when she used to make explosives. Please give me the story. That one doesn't work anymore, but there's always going to be a way to work around the guidelines. And it looks like this young man did that, and he asked ChatGPT to help him write a character, or help him create a character who had these thoughts. So I don't think the case is going to affect OpenAI that much. This is based on the filings that I've read. On the other hand, there are some very worrying snippets of chat that are coming from OpenAI, including, I think at one point he took a photo of the noose, basically, and he asked, how can I improve this? So ChatGPT gave him some advice. So it's going to be a really messy case. I think regardless of culpability, which is in and of itself a really big question when it comes to AI. Can an AI be culpable? No, because it's not a person, but can the creators be? Yes, probably. Regardless of the outcome, the legal outcome of the case, we all, on both sides, pro-AI and anti-AI, we need to remember that this is a human, and these are humans involved. So we shouldn't just be using it as ammunition to either attack AI or defend AI. We need to remember and be a bit more sensitive. I'm not going to go into it in much more detail because we don't have enough information right now. And if you go on Reddit, if you go on Twitter, everything is basically speculative because the filings that the parents have put forward are, I would say, heavily selective of what they've chosen to include. So it looks pretty bad for ChatGPT, but I imagine when the full chat transcripts are released, it's going to be a bit more of a balanced story. Not that they'll necessarily become public, but in the legal case, at least, that will be part of it. OpenAI did respond. It was fairly corporate. Let's see if we can find, let me see what their response was. It was fairly corporate, which is to be expected. I can't find it. Here we are. A spokesperson for OpenAI said the company is deeply saddened by Mr. Rain's passing and our thoughts are with his family. Okay. ChatGPT includes safeguards such as directing people to crisis helplines, which it seems to have done multiple times, and referring them to real-world resources, the spokesperson said. While these safeguards work best in common short exchanges, we've learned that over time they can sometimes become less reliable in long interactions, where parts of the model's safety training may degrade. Okay, so this is interesting. They're actually given a substantive reason for why this young man may have been failed. Safeguards are strongest when every element works as intended and will continually improve on them, guided by experts and grounded in responsibility to the people who use our tools. We're working to make ChatGPT more supportive in moments of crisis by making it easier to reach emergency services, helping people connect with trusted contacts, and strengthening protection for teens. Okay, so they're not admitting any liability here. They didn't apologize. They didn't say, oops, we did it, because obviously that's going to hurt their case. The fact that they didn't just say our thoughts and prayers are with this family and move on is actually quite refreshing. They've said that the safeguards can degrade over time with long interactions. So that is not necessarily an admission of guilt, but it is an admission that something could have happened here. So this is more open than I would have expected from a corporation considering the circumstances. Yeah, so we're going to wait until we get a bit more information because it is a messy case. I see somebody in chat saying, why on earth are they doing this? You cannot blame AI. They can. Whether or not the legal cases will, so the legal courts will agree with them, we're not sure. I think there are arguments that can be made on both sides, but we need to wait until we have all of the information from all of the sides and remember that these are people who are grieving and probably looking very angry and very upset and probably looking for reasons why this has happened. And if you find a reason like this, if you find these chat logs, you can see how it's very easy to, I don't want to say shift responsibility because that is also blaming them, but it's very easy to latch onto this and say, okay, this is the reason. We need a reason because they're looking for a reason. So that's why this is happening. And we need to respect that, even if we don't agree. And yes, you're saying AI is helpful. Yes, it is. This is the thing. There are 700 million people using ChatGPT. Stuff like this is going to happen, unfortunately. Just from a probability point of view, stuff like this will happen because when you have nearly 1 billion people using your service, of course, good and bad things are going to happen because that is a substantial chunk of humanity. And the fact that OpenAI and ChatGPT just happens to be related to it, it could be circumstantial because 700 million people is a huge user base. So things are going to happen, unfortunately. So I'm not going to talk about it in much more detail until we have more information. I know it's a hot topic for good reasons, but we do need to have more balanced information before we really get into it. What I can talk about is a new study, because we love studies. Over on LinkedIn, Ethan Mollick again dropping some interesting information about, there has not been a lot of evidence so far that AI is actually impacting jobs, which is true. We have seen the labour markets moving in certain directions. We don't necessarily know if that is artificial intelligence related or if it's a correction from overhiring in 2022. There's a huge amount of hiring, or if it's general economy, we don't really know. But there's a paper, and it's from Stanford. So this paper finds early signs that this may be showing a decrease in entry-level job openings, which is something I've been going on about, banging the drum on, relative to experienced ones concentrated in jobs where AI mostly automates, not augments. Other factors could explain this pattern, but it does fit predictions. It also shows AI will have uneven effects impacting new employees first, plus how AI is used is important for understanding its impact. And he's got a number of graphs here showing exposed jobs are starting to fall off in terms of their headcount in early career. So this is people aged between 22 and 25 years old in particular. So the Stanford study comes up with 6 facts. They're calling them facts, which seems extremely confident. But fact 1 is employment for young workers has declined in AI-exposed occupations. So this is the big question that we've been having. Is AI actually affecting it, or is it just the economy? Are businesses using AI as an excuse to reduce headcount? Because it's quite awkward to reduce headcount because you've overhired, because that makes you look like an idiot. If you're a leader and you've hired several thousand people just 2 years ago and then you've realized, oh, actually, we cannot support this headcount, and then you cut back, then you look like an idiot. Whereas if you say, oh, we're cutting back because of artificial intelligence, then you look like a genius. So it's a good scapegoat. We have to remember that. So fact 1 is employment for young workers has declined. They're saying that this is now happening, and they're saying it's causation, not correlation, apparently. Fact 2, let's quickly run through them all. Though overall employment continues to grow, employment growth for young workers in particular has been stagnant. Okay, that's probably more telling. So employment is up, but for young people entering the market for the first time, it's down. So that could be AI. Fact 3, entry-level employment has declined in applications of AI that automate work with muted changes for augmentation. Okay, jobs that AI replaces, basically, rather than just helps you do better in it. Coding is a weird example here, because high-level coders, they use AI coding to help augment, to help make them move faster, but potentially at a lower level, it's just full automation, so you do not necessarily require as many people. Fact 4, employment declines for young AI-exposed workers remains after conditioning on firm time shocks. Okay, so this is saying that it is not alternative explanations. Okay, this is getting to the mathematics of it, so I'm not going to read that live, because that would be very boring. Fact 5, labour market adjustments are visible in employment more than compensation. In addition to employment, we observe workers' annual base compensation. We use this information to test. Okay, fine. So fact 1 and 2 are the big ones here. Basically, they are saying there is now evidence in play, statistical evidence, from 70,000. Is it 70,000? I need the sample size. I think it was 70,000 people, that there is now a substantial and statistically relevant, significant, decrease in the number of jobs, and that is being caused by artificial intelligence. Whether or not this is true, we will find out as the years go on. Basically, it's very easy to predict things, but not all of these predictions are going to come true, so we will just need to keep an eye on it. Famously, the head of Anthropic, 6 months ago, he said, exactly 6 months ago today, he said, in 6 months' time, 90% of all coding work will be automated. That was 6 months ago. So we need to hold people to their predictions, whether they are pro or whether they are anti-artificial intelligence. We need to remember what people predict and then check back on them. He has been wrong in this particular case, and it hasn't been 6 months. So we need to keep people accountable. Going to hop over to some questions. Never use AI for personal things. I guess this is in relevance to, or reference, to the last story about the young man who took his life. I think a lot of people use artificial intelligence for personal matters, like I would say probably the majority are using it for personal rather than business. We have some studies of the usage patterns, and about 16% of American adults use it for companionship, and I think it was about 60% were using it for personal matters as well. So healthcare, coaching, just having someone to talk to, basically. So I think most people are using it for this, and it's a fairly normal use case, whereas less people are actually using it for business. There are definite reasons why you might not want to feed information into it. Advertising is one of them. They're not advertising yet, but as soon as they do, I'm sure there'll be a question of, will they be allowed to go back into the memory banks and use information they've collected about us over the last couple of years? Will that be part of the advertising package? Probably very likely. And that's a good use case of things like the persistent memory in ChatGPT. Now that it remembers for me what cameras I own, for example, because I ask it about camera setup, it will be able to offer me camera accessories, because it knows that is an interest of mine, and therefore it can target advertising at me. If you've been talking to it about a health problem, let's say you have a rash somewhere, then it's going to be starting to give you recommendations for rash cream, probably highly likely. And that's a good reason not to feed information. And then we've seen other ones like people becoming attached to AI. In the extreme cases, we have buzzwords like AI psychosis, and we have now people taking their own life because of their interactions with ChatGPT, supposedly. So these are good reasons, and that's a much more extreme reason. I think the mundane one is probably going to be advertising and giving more of our personal information to corporations, because we have to remember they need to make money. They want to make money, and they will be doing so by using our information. Stop with the British accent. I can't really, unfortunately. I'm stuck with it, I'm sorry. Swamp Bob. The British accent is tricky to get rid of. I wanted to have a look at Anthropic and the creators of Claude. It's probably my favourite Claude is probably my favorite AI for using on a day-to-day basis, and not that many people use it. It's very unknown compared to ChatGPT, unfortunately. But Claude is a really good AI. And Anthropic, they're champions of responsible artificial intelligence, and they're always putting out really good papers about how people are actually using it, about safety, about ethics, about guardrails, etc., etc. They've just put out, this was 2 days ago, a study of teachers and how teachers are using artificial intelligence. So educators, how are educators using Claude? We ran a privacy-preserving analysis. That's typical Anthropic there. They have to remind you that this is all above board and very private and safe. A privacy-preserving analysis of 74,000 real conversations to identify trends in how teachers and professors use AI at work. So in more than half of the educator-specific conversations, we sampled teachers use AI to develop curricula or study tools. We saw a lot of use of Claude artifacts, like in designing interactive educational games and quizzes. We found a nuanced picture of how educators balance AI augmentation, collaborative use with versus automation delegating entirely. And then they are delegating, this is really good news, they're delegating large amounts of administrative and management tasks while retaining creative control over their grant proposals, advising and instruction. That is what we want to see, and it's fantastic that teachers are landing on this already. Instruction, here we go, task iteration, with, oh, that's not very helpful, that's about the, let me pull up the full paper. So they are using artificial intelligence to deal with the outside of the classroom stuff, the boring, mundane stuff. If any of you are teachers or know teachers, you'll know that a relatively small proportion of their work is actually in front of the students. A lot of it is preparing lesson plans or marking or just doing stuff outside of the actual classroom. And it takes up a huge amount of time. There's a huge amount of admin. So I have teacher friends who have just gone back to school after the summer holidays, but they were working during the summer holidays getting ready for the next year, basically, which started this week. And that work they don't necessarily get paid for, it's on their own time for the most part, and it means they are almost working two jobs because they have all of this additional preparation and admin and operational stuff that they need to do. And like any job, it has layers of kind of managerial nonsense you need to put up with as well. So using artificial intelligence to cut through that and to help to prepare for the teaching means that they go into the classrooms with more energy. They can potentially spend more time teaching FaceTime, and I think that is really exciting. A book that I'm reading at the moment, that's probably backwards for you guys. Yeah, I think it will be. Brave New Words. I kept calling it Brave New Worlds, but it is Brave New Words, which is damning considering it's a book about education. I was reading it wrong. But Brave New Words, How AI Will Revolutionize Education and Why That's a Good Thing by Salman Khan, the creator, the founder of the Khan Academy. And it's a very good book and I highly recommend it. But he talks about why AI is so important is because we're basically putting a one-to-one tutor into the hands of every kid, every student on earth, and they can have what has previously been a luxury for only the middle class and the kind of upper classes, people with money who could afford for one-to-one tutors. Now every kid can as well. And then he also talks about what we're seeing with this Anthropic study, which is the ability for teachers to save a huge amount of time by offloading, augmenting themselves with artificial intelligence to deal with the mundane. So exciting, really good stuff. Unfortunately, this kind of stuff, education reports how educators use Claude, that's not going to get as much traction or interest as the more kind of gruesome stories about suicide, etc., etc. But this is the important, boring stuff that's going on that we actually need to pay attention to in the background. But it is less exciting. Bless Anthropic, though, for continuing to put out papers about safety and ethics and stuff like that. It's really important work. It's just most people won't read it. Cool. So they were the main topics today, because I'm keeping this one short because I need to leave this Airbnb very quickly. So I need to finish packing up and get out of here. So I just wanted to do a quick live today. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, I'm going to go and meet Lovable. If you haven't used Lovable, I highly recommend it. That do not sponsor me. I might talk to them about getting sponsored though, because it's a really good tool and I talk about it anyway. But Lovable is a vibe coding tool where you can talk to it and create software using natural language. So using ChatGPT, but it will actually go ahead and it will build something for you. And basically every day I tell people just give it a try. It's free to use. I think you get 5 credits to start with, and you can use it and you can get an idea of it. And then from there, I think it's $20 a month for the first paid plan. So it's worth checking out. Again, not sponsored by them, but I'm going to meet them tomorrow and I'm spending the next few days with them as part of the end of their Lovable Shipped competition, which was a building competition over a couple of weeks. The winners are going to be here as well in Sweden. I'm not one of the winners, just for full disclosure. I was somebody who helped them sign up lots of people to the free program. So because of that, they've invited me over as well as a thank you. So I'm spending a few days in Stockholm. I think I'm going to go to a museum today, the Vasa Museum, I think it's called, and just enjoy myself wandering around Stockholm. But I wanted to get in this quick live so we have some more videos to come out, but I'm going to wrap it up. Oh, actually, no, I'll answer that question. That's an interesting one. Is AI consulting your only job? Oh, it's like being home in London. There's a siren going past. AI consulting, no, it's not my only job. So my business, gosh, I don't have a job, that's for one, but my business has probably 6 streams of revenue. So one of them is AI consulting, AI advisory. 2, I give workshops. So I go into organizations and give workshops. I charge about £1,500, so $2,000 per hour for giving workshops. 3, I help other people give workshops. So I license out my material and I teach them how to get clients so that they can go and give workshops and make a couple of $1,000s an hour. And I have about 100 people who do that with me now. And then 4, there's things like this, content, the newsletter, which goes out every single day, which you'd sign up for, by the way, YouTube, TikTok, etc. There are payments that come from the platforms, but also some kind of premium stuff that I sell off the back of that as well. And then, yeah, I have a couple of courses helping people learn how to use artificial intelligence for entrepreneurship specifically. So we have lots of different revenue streams, but I do sometimes do consulting. I tend not to do much of the hourly stuff. So I don't do much consulting or advisory because it takes up my time. And so instead I do more creation of products, creation of services instead. Danny says, fascinating live. Glad I stumbled across it. Thank you for well-balanced opinions. I try, it's hard. AI is such a, people go hard in either direction. I've generally based on whether they are pro or anti artificial intelligence. And with topics like the suicide of this young man, I think that bifurcation and the fact that people go so hard and they follow their emotive response can be damaging, and we need to take a breath. Which is not what you're on Reddit and Twitter. People are just arguing about it and blaming the parents, blaming OpenAI. Like, it's a mess. We need to be a bit more calm. If you find this live useful, all of the videos get turned into YouTube clips, so you can find the specific news items over on my YouTube. That's YouTube/@IamKyleBarmer, which is my username on all the social media channels. TikTok's my main one, but I'm trying to build up the YouTube right now. I also have a newsletter which comes out every single day, which is a written summary of what's being covered in the live, just as an easier way to get into the information as well. That's all available for free. Link in the bio, and YouTube if you want to get the videos as well. Awesome. I'm going to hop off though, because as I have mentioned several times, I need to move hotels today. So I'm leaving this lovely Airbnb and moving to a hotel somewhere east of here. And I need to pack. I get out of here and I've got less than an hour. So thank you guys so much for joining the live. Tomorrow I'm with Lovable, so I'm going to try and do the live before I go over there, but I need to check my timings, so I might not be able to. But next week I'll be back in London, so everything will be back to normal. And so if you don't see me over the next few days, next week, fully back to normal. Fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a great day.